Hey everyone, if you love combat sports such as karate, kickboxing, Kyokushin, MMA, you name it, make sure to hit the like, share, subscribe button to the Drewsperience show, the show that's 100% combat sports in both pop culture and just if you're a fan of the sports. Today, my guest today, wow. So I'm back with a plan. I'm back with some action. We got hailing from Brooklyn in the middleweight division of karate combat, 3-0, got one of the nastiest high kicks. Watch it on all forms. He's back. He represents Brooklyn, as I said. Here we go. Ross Turbo Levine, welcome to the Drewsperience. How are you doing today, Ross?
What's going on, brother? I'm doing great. Thank you. That was a hell of an intro. That's the best intro on a podcast I've ever had. I love the energy. Yeah, man, I'm pumped to be here. Thank you for having me and reaching out to me. Let's get down to business, man. Let's talk shop.
Exactly, man. No, so you're not only like a successful kickboxer, a successful karateka, but you're also a physiotherapist, from what I saw. So that's like
Yep.
quite the juggling you do there. So tell me, how did you start off with martial arts and picking kickboxing and then karate?
Yeah, I'll give you the short version. I mean, a lot of people who have tuned in and seen me do some podcasts
Mhm.
kind of know my story because that's like the common question, right? How did you get started? I started at a young age. My brother did martial arts before me. I got into it because he won a trophy and I wanted the trophy. So I started competing and taking classes. And then fast forward, I did years of sport karate and just really stuck with the competitive side of it. I just enjoyed it to the fullest extent. I mean, I was teaching as well, but
Mhm.
I really found a passion in just testing myself. So, later on in life, I went to grad school for physiotherapy, as you mentioned.
Mhm.
And I moved away from my home camp in New York City, where I
Mhm.
was doing all my sport karate. And I met some kickboxers and MMA guys. So I started training with them. And they were like, hey, you should try an amateur fight. Like, you're pretty good. And I did and just fell in love with it. And at that point, I was already like almost 20 years into my sport karate career. So, it's like kind of been there, done that. I was beating and fighting all the top guys in the world. So it was time for something new, and kickboxing really filled that void. And that's kind of how I got started with that.
Amazing. Did you have any role models growing up, so from say pop culture and movies, or just pro fighters as well?
I wouldn't say pop culture. Like, I mean, everyone watched, the Bruce Lee movies, and I watched a lot of like X-Men and Spider-Man and Power Rangers, like Ninja Turtles. Of course, that stuff influenced me in a positive way. But I would say really when I started, I remember at a young age
Mhm.
watching, like sneaking into my dad's room on like a Saturday morning and watching like K1 Max,
Mhm.
and watching guys like Michael McDonald and Jerome LeBanner and that era, Mark Hunt of kickboxing, and I just remember being like in awe, and that's kind of where it started. And then it just kind of flourished and it grew as over time. And yeah, when I started doing some amateur kickboxing, I really started following companies like K1 and like
Mhm.
Glory. And that's where I really started to find the guys that I was passionate about following and mimicking and emulating, guys like Bazooka Joe Baltellini, who I just came back from Toronto. He became a mentor of mine. So like that's an incredible person that I've met. Guys like Nikki Holskin, Robin Van
Mhm.
Roosmalen. Like I just started watching a lot of the top European guys and North American guys, and just it's been awesome.
Do you feel like because you're from the North American style and there's a difference with the European, based on what you've learned from any of your European um, peers, what do you feel is the difference between the American style of kickboxing versus the European style?
Well, I think the Americans have certainly caught up as
Mhm.
far as like skill for skill. When you look at it on paper, I think the Americans certainly do it a little bit differently. Like it's
Mhm.
not the pure Dutch kickboxing, it's not
Mhm.
the pure, Thai version of Muay Thai, but the Americans, North Americans have built an interesting blend. I think the real difference is just experience and opportunity. In the Netherlands, they have kickboxing gyms where those are more popular, where in the US they're karate schools. So I think that's where you get guys that over there. I had 11 amateur fights before I went pro, and then I
Mhm.
had 2 pro fights before I was in Glory. A majority of these guys, my first opponent in Glory, I think, had like 14 pro fights, and he was like inexperienced. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
a lot of those people who have been fighting in kickboxing in Europe for so long are just, they're 80 plus fights. It's hard to match that experience.
Now, because you know what's even more crazy to me is how a lot of kickboxers, when they say they do kickboxing, so to say, they come from a taekwondo background, a sport karate background, kyokushin or
Mm.
kempo. Why do you think having karate is such a good base to get into kickboxing from your experience?
Yeah, I mean, I started off as a Taekwondo stylist.
Mhm,
That was my base. I started when I was 7 years old, and then sport karate. So the point fighting, the in and out, that Wako style.
mhm,
And I want to say that the biggest attributes, a couple different ways. So from the mental side and also the physical side. The physical side, the way that martial artists and karate fighters, point fighters are able to establish distance control,
mhm,
right? The timing, the control of the space. Like that's where the mastery comes in. It's not about the punching and kicks. It's
mhm,
how do I stop someone from covering this distance, but allow myself to cover that distance. So it's a lot about ringmanship and control. And you see that come through in my fights. Now, what people don't talk about is the mental side. So in a point fighting match in the US, you have 90 seconds,
mhm,
right? 90 seconds total points or like a 10-point spread. Um, so you have to learn how to make adjustments, not only like round to round, because you don't get extra rounds. It's one 90-second round. So
mhm.
you have to make adjustments from exchange to exchange to exchange. And the constant, like the computer has to always be going. And I think that's what gives, well, I can speak for myself and like some of the other higher level point fighters out there that are transitioning. That's what gives us the edge. It's my computer works faster than
Mhm.
yours. So I'm able to adjust when someone throws a kick at me. I'm already processing, why did that happen? How did I get hit? How do I block? And then I fix it. Where some people, it takes them a full round or sometimes even a full fight, to make that adjustment. So I think that's where the point fighting comes in. It just happens so fast.
Very interesting. I love how you say that because I do Kyokushin and we have that blitz too. But the thing with Kyokushin is it's not blitz in, blitz out. It's I'm going to hit you hard, you're going to hit me harder, and then I'm going to hit you even harder until you fall.
Mhm. Yeah, it's almost like war of attrition, right? But the point fighting side, the sport karate side, it's first point wins. Pretty much it's hit and don't get hit. So it's a lot of that elusive, really breaking down the puzzle, breaking the rhythm, and then covering that gap. So when you learn how to do that, it can be a disadvantage too, right? Because you get those point fighters who they blitz in and then they get stuck and they're like, oh, what do I do? And they
Mhm.
get knocked out. But when you can blend and do them both, that's where something special really happens.
The most successful like point fighters that I think we have seen in like that have taken it to other forms of combat sports, be it kickboxing or MMA, are the Raymond Daniels, the Michael Venom Pages, and the Stephen Wonder Boy Thompson. And it seems that they've brought back this idea that the blitz in, blitz out style is actually a very effective style, even for modern MMA today.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all. It certainly has its advantages and disadvantages, but
Mhm,
you see how guys like let's take Michael Page for example. I mean, he rose to the top so fast. Aside from MVP being like, first of all, he looks like skinny and lanky.
mhm,
Mike hits so hard. Like I fought Mike, I fought Raymond, so I know these guys very well. Mike is so strong. It's unbelievable. His hands are like little lunch boxes. Like he's got big hands, and it's like a lead ball, man. He hits very hard. And again, it's understanding how to perfectly time it so he hits you at the end of his punch as
mhm.
you're colliding and just making that car crash. And yeah, I mean, Raymond, if you're not pressuring Ray and you stand in front of him and try and figure him out, he's going to put you on a highlight reel. He's done it many times. Yeah, and I look to continue. I think even though I come from that same style, I've adopted more of a traditional kickboxing
Mhm.
approach. And now you're seeing in karate combat, I'm starting to blend my style where I go southpaw, I fight the point fighting style, I dart in, dart out, move, and then I'm constantly evolving my game. So yeah, now that I'm a champion, I think I get to highlight that a little bit more.
That's amazing. You're 3-0. Obviously, your debut was kind of not debut, but your season was delayed because of the COVID pandemic. So it took some time to get some fights in. Um, Karate Combat seems to have exploded with since Adam Kovacs took over, bringing in big names such as Boss Rutan, GSP, Stephen Thompson, and even I believe Lyoto Machida was brought in
Machida.
as like a ambassador. How do you feel Karate Combat's evolution has been since being launched in 2018?
It's on a rocket ship, you know. You look way back in the day, they did some live shows. It was kind of a prototype. They were
Mhm,
building it. It was cool, but it had this underground vibe, right? No
mhm,
one really knew about it. It wasn't mainstream yet. And then when they hit COVID, it was, you know, I think most companies would have given up, right? It was, oh man, we can't quite do it. We'll never be like the UFC, and they would have given up. But you know, Adam and the minds behind it, Adam's the president and the CEOs, and Robert Bryan, guys like that are they're geniuses. So they came up with that whole CGI and
mhm.
let's pre-record some fights and get these guys to show their skills off. And they made these interactive worlds and the Unreal Engine. It's like they just did stuff that's never been done. And yeah, it took off. It gained a lot of viewership.
Mhm.
And now that COVID is, I don't want to say over because people get testy with that, but as we're getting out on the other side and things are getting back to what we perceive as normal, and we're doing live shows again, you're seeing like people are flocking to it. They want more. They can't get enough. It's like, when's the next show? And we're just doing big, innovative things. And yeah, I'm just really fortunate. I feel like I'm here at
Mhm.
the right time in my career, the right time in Karate Combat's growth as an American fighter, now a champion. I have a platform where I can really put it on my back and let's just like take this thing to the moon.
Love it. And especially there's like an American invasion as like the saying goes with you. It's like he's leading the Ross Turbo Levine is leading the American invasion. And it's so nice to see that karate in America is succeeding because think of it, you've
Mm.
had stars that have done it. And what do you feel like you're 3-0 right now? You win the middleweight belt, the light heavyweight is a champ, is an American, and so forth. So if there's like say if there's like say two or more champions in each weight class, how do you feel that's going to contribute to the growth of karate combat for your career more, but also like just for American karate in general?
Yeah, I mean, so there's the other American is in the welterweight division right now.
Mhm,
So Josh Quayhagen, he's in the welterweight. There is a vacancy in the light heavyweight division, and I don't believe there are any Americans. Or there's a couple of Americans, but they haven't quite fared as well yet.
mhm,
Like EGN has, he's coming off a loss, and
mhm.
Che Calloway is another light heavyweight that probably should be fighting lighter, but yeah, I mean, there's vacancy there. So, I mean, a couple more fights in the middleweight division. I'm looking to potentially move up and fight at the 205 weight class as well. But yeah, I mean, as far as the opportunity for me to be a champion and be from the US and North America is huge because when you look at MMA, right, you think of the UFC, right? How many champions do we have? How many of them are American, right? We've got what, Aljamain, and now
John
we
Jones.
have John Jones. I believe that's it,
Mhm,
right? Pereira's Brazilian. You've got three Mexican champions now. There was a time where there were three African champions, like Leon Edwards is from the UK. So Americans have kind of fallen behind. So for me to be in in my opinion, one of the top four striking organizations in the world, it's an honor to be an American and a champion and to fly the American flag and be that representative and say, hey, like we're still here. And especially for karate, right? Because it gets a bad rap and it's like, oh, it's just karate. It's like, no, this is real, man. Any of these guys can go into one of those other organizations and skill for skill, hold their own.
exactly, like Glory, because you said you were in Glory too. Now, and then Glory fell under some new ownership. It looks like they're still trying to
Mm.
figure it out. What do you feel like? I mean, when you fought in Glory, then now it's a new ownership. What do you feel the new ownership group can do that to look at karate combat and say, look, they're doing it like this, they're succeeding. Maybe we can do something like this with kickboxing.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, I can't really speak for them. The issue that I had with Glory when they went under the new ownership is, and I don't really blame them honestly. They were doing what was best for the company
Hmm.
financially and what was best for the fighters, but they really shut down the North American side of everything,
Oh.
even like the far Eastern European side, especially with the the things going on with Russia and Ukraine. They cut all those fighters, but
Hmm.
they've really honed in on just that like Central European, Netherlands, Belgium, Germany, like that's the bulk of the fighters. And they pull a couple people in here and there, but that's what they're focused on and that's where their sales are, that's where people are tuned in, and that's where the market is. Yeah, it would be hard to say. I've always felt like Glory should have been way bigger. And
Hmm.
you look across the board, Joe Rogan has said it, Joe Valtellini has said it, Joe Schilling has said it. It's like, why is this not huge? People love striking and excitement, and that was Glory Kickboxing. and it just never quite panned out. But now, you know what? We got Karate Combat. So it's a little bit of everything. It's different. It's a new look. The pit is unbelievable. You got to get to a live show because it doesn't do it justice watching it on YouTube, or like CBS or any other platform it's on. When you see a live Karate Combat event, you'll never go to another like cage fighting event ever and be satisfied.
In the pit, it makes sense. And what I like too about your upcoming Miami fight, by the way, just to give a shout out, guys, Ross is looking for some good sponsors, A1. So I want to give a shout out. So if you know any sponsor, when you watch the show, and if you're someone that's a legit sponsor, please DM Ross Turbo Levine. So that way he gets the proper training and he can get the funds needed to invest in a proper prep for his next upcoming fight. Saw the story, so I had to mention
Thank you so much.
you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that so much.
No problem. So, and what I love too about the Karate Combat, especially with the Miami, they got that Grand Theft Auto font and graphic going, like the Vice City. It makes it really interesting. And I was like, I love it. Like, so it seems like the marketing team and social media team at Karate Combat is they really do their homework of putting out quality.
They're smart, man. I got to give a shout out to my buddy Dane Curley. Dane is the man. He heads up a lot of the social media. I believe he runs their social media pages on Instagram. He designs the website and things like that. My buddy Tomas is one of the cinematographers. He does a lot of the film and behind the scenes stuff. Mackenzie is amazing. Like I'm on naming people that no one knows. They're kind of behind the scenes, but what an amazing staff. Like they're all so good, and they branch out and have people do different things and record. And yeah, their minds are tuned into what people kind of want to see. And like, you think Miami, what do you think of? You think of the Miami Heat, which by the way, my merch is a shout out to the Miami Heat. You think of palm trees and Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Like those are the things you think about. So they keyed in on that right away, and they hit it out of the park. Honestly, like I see what their promotional stuff looks like, but again, it's like I can't wait to actually get there because the environment is going to be nuts. Like in Orlando, they had this like Neo France kind of like, they had a giant LED screen that was interactive, and as the camera moved, the background moved. It was wild. So, it's like being in a video game. So I can't imagine what they're going to have going on, come Vice City times for Miami. They did the Christmas show and they had Santa there. They had the Halloween show. They had zombies walking around the pit. It was wild. Yeah, they do a phenomenal job. I can't say anything better.
You have to be a bit insane. You have to be a bit, I wouldn't say insane, but you have to be a bit mad to be creative and believe in what you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, listen, you can't make waves unless you kind of shake stuff up, right? So they are not afraid to be different. They're not afraid to be unique, and they're not afraid to do what the hell they want. I think a lot of promotions, they grow and they die because they're like, oh, I got to do it a certain way, and we got to kind of be like the UFC and Bellator, but we want to be our own, and then they fall apart. You got to be unique, and you got to stick to your guns. And Karate Combat has done that since day one. And you think about the personalities. You think Boss Rutan cares what anybody thinks?
No.
You know what I mean? Like that dude is awesome. And these guys speak their mind. They've got a great staff, and it works, man. It works. And that's why you see the explosion.
So this is a bit of a controversial question. So Karate Combat, you think of karate, traditional, all about respect, the discipline. But I was recently watching some old UFC fights, like from the 90s, like the Tank Abbott days, like when like those were like the brawler days. And sometimes I feel Karate Combat needs that bad boy. Like they need that guy that everyone's gonna hate on, that they're gonna tune in to watch, win or lose. Do you feel like if they added like a bad guy in Karate Combat, that could also help elevate the brand in a sense?
Maybe. I mean, I think it's just about a little bit of personality, right? I don't necessarily think you need to have the bad guy. In my last fight with Igor, I kind of got painted as being the bad guy because I wrote something on social media and then he replied, and it was like I was being disrespectful, but I really wasn't. People who know me, I'm like the consummate professional when it comes to, inside and outside of the pit. But at the same time, I think where there's miscommunication and where sometimes I kind of look like the bad guy to these traditional karate people is they're used to karate tournaments where it's bow, touch gloves, a lot of respect. Somebody falls down, you help them up. It's like, listen, I'm not here to get a medal. If I don't take you out, you're taking me out. So
Mhm.
at the end of the day, we'll bow, we'll shake hands. But as soon as they say enter the pit, I'm trying to kill you. You're trying to kill me. Like it's combat, it's prize fighting. So, I'm not your buddy. I'm not your friend. I'm not here to be like, oh, Mr. Perfect. Like, I'm here to take you out. And that's my job. That's what I get paid for, and anything less than that is unacceptable to me. So, sometimes that looks like me being the bad guy, but it's just, I'm doing my job, man. Like I said, people who know me, my fan base knows that I'm one of the most respectful, humble, very, I have courtesy, integrity, self-control. I work with all of these values, and yeah, it is what it is. So I don't really know what else to say on that. I don't know that we need a bad guy. I think we just need personality.
You need to have different characters. You don't want to have like the plain, because I follow hockey and I'm a big hockey fan. I only do hockey and combat sports. I can't keep up with the other
Mm,
sports. And the hockey interview is like, yeah, well, he passed the puck. But in MMA or karate, it's like, yeah, it's like he came in, and obviously like they could have that personality where they describe that strike. And then you're like, or the guys, and they're like, what are you doing after the fight? He goes, man, it's like, I'm gonna go eat a massive meal. I cut so much weight for this. I'm gonna go to McDonald's. And you can relate to the fighters. They're like, you know what? They're just like
yeah.
me. They're just very good at their craft.
Yeah. And the other thing too is you think about personality, right? And it can't be the same across the board. So you have the extreme good guy, like Wonder Boy, right?
Mm-hmm.
If everyone was like Wonder Boy, people would hate the UFC. If everyone was Conor McGregor, John Jones, they would hate it. If everyone was Khabib, they would hate it. You gotta have that, like, some you have some people who have this role and that role and this role, and like you have to have all these different personalities that are going to make up the sport. And
Mm-hmm.
karate combat's developing that. You've got Josh Quahagen, the preacher, right? He's super humble, super nice, very quiet, soft spoken. You've got me, who, maybe I come off a little bit confident, arrogant, some people might say, but I get the job done in the ring. You got Luis Rocha, seems kind of like a party boy, but again, Scrivers is like I'm going to smash you, I'm going to kill you, next for karate combat, I'm the best. You got Bruno Souza is like super fun, like laid back, he's chill, he hugs everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So it's developing,
That's amazing. And when it comes to now, I'm gonna put my fan cap on here, because like obviously, I'm sure we all watched UFC this past weekend. What was your thoughts of speaking of John Jones, his return? What'd you think of that fight?
Yeah, I mean, made it easy. He made it look easy. He showed why he is far and beyond one of the best natural, gifted, hardworking MMA fighters on the planet. I don't know that anyone's going to beat him at heavyweight. I don't know that anyone could beat him at light heavyweight. And it shows that, when he's focused, he is just absolutely untouchable. He has too many weapons and too many avenues to beat you.
Do you think he beats Stipe in the if it happens?
Yeah, I think he makes it look easy.
Wow,
I
I
really
like
do.
that.
Yeah, I really do. I really do.
I'm gonna be more. I'm a fan of Bones, but it's like but I'm gonna be like more realistic. Where I was like, he'll beat Stipe, but it's a much tougher fight because Stipe has wrestling. But it's not. But I see what you mean. It's not
Yeah,
2017 Stipe. It's 2023
right.
Stipe. He's fighting.
Yeah, how old is Stipe now? Do you know?
41 in August. He's gonna be.
Come on. John's 35, man.
Mhm.
And like, yeah, John took 3 years off, but it's
Mhm.
not like he was 3 years off and just sitting on the couch eating
No.
burgers. Like, guy was powerlifting, wrestling. He was, look, I mean, look at, I love this stuff. I love watching the training and how it completely like
Mhm.
uh transitions into the ring, and like
Mhm.
the wrestling. Did you see that video that popped up with him and Henry Cejudo?
Yes. Oh, it was
And
beautiful.
yeah, and it's like, well, first of all, you're wrestling with Henry Cejudo. He's like a multiple-time Olympian, and like, how is his wrestling? John's wrestling was already good, and now he's getting coached by someone like Cejudo. It's just
Mhm.
another level, and for him to be that athletic and like his genetics, like look at Chandler Jones. Like, come on, who's gonna stop that guy? Until there's another heavyweight that comes around, and honestly, everyone's like, oh, Francis, he would have murdered Francis.
Yep.
He would have beat Francis up. So,
I
just too one-dimensional.
if Francis has that power, but if that hit misses, John's gonna go for the takedown, and it's a whole world of hurt. So I see what you mean. Another fight I
Yeah,
want to talk to you
yeah.
about, because you fought in Glory, so you had some peers in the Glory, and we're talking about the upcoming UFC in April, Pereira 2 versus Izzy. It's really a Pereira
Mm,
Izzy 4 if you know kickboxing. But what's your thoughts on the
yeah.
rematch in MMA, and how do you see that one going?
Well, I mean, I'm a huge fan of both.
Mhm,
I'm a huge fan. I think the next time I can really dedicate some time to a vacation, Auckland is a place that I want to go.
mhm,
I would love to spend some time at City Kickboxing. I think
mhm,
those guys are brilliant. I think their coaching staff is brilliant. Um, I have students that have trained with Glover and had
mhm.
a chance to work out with Alex, and they
Ooh.
all say he's amazing. So now I'm actually pretty close to Glover's school. So about an hour and 40 minutes away. So I would love to get some training with Alex and see how that goes. I've met him at Glory Miami. Gosh, he's such a scary dude. He's the type of guy where it doesn't look pretty, but he puts you out. He's clearly shown that he's durable. Um, in my opinion, and I just had a conversation with somebody about this the other day. I think Izzy needs to attack him.
Mhm,
I think he needs to go after him. I think he needs to put him on his back foot if possible, intelligently, not just kind of rush and close the gap, but
mhm,
he needs to be a little bit more offensive. I think he needs to control the center of the ring better because as soon as you get backed up, it's only a matter of time before Alex, stalks you and connects. And it only takes one,
mhm.
so I think you look at how Izzy started that fight in the first round and second round, and he was attacking and he almost landed that knockout. And then he backed off. He took too many low kicks and slowly but surely faded until he got caught against the fence. He can't
Mhm.
let that happen.
No.
If he can push forward and string together some different attacks and keep Alex guessing, I think he wins. I think he can put Alex away. I think he can win a very easy one-sided decision. But if he doesn't and he can't employ that game plan, I mean, it's sometimes you just got his number, man. I think Alex can do it again. It's going to be a crazy fight. I'm going to be there. I'm super pumped for it. My boy
Amazing.
Rob Font is fighting Rob Font, Adrian Yanez. I'm going to go
Yes.
support my boy Rob. So I'll be there. Rob is actually the whole New England cartel is going to be down there at my fight to support me, and then I'm
Mhm.
going to stick around, hang with those guys the whole week, and watch him do business on the following week.
That's amazing. No, because when you see New England Cartel, you're also friends with current Bellator welterweight Brennan Pug Killa. That's it. I think that's his Instagram handle. But Ward, what an example! Not just like in the cage, outside the cage, to be so open with the story. What's it like, when you meet like these? Like, because you said you're meeting all these different minds in the combat sports game. But what makes
Yeah.
Brennan such a special friend to you? Like with his story.
Yeah, it's funny. Brennan and I have never connected prior
Hmm.
to his last fight, his last training camp, where we became a lot closer really fast, actually. But we've always been in the same circle. So we
Hmm.
have a lot of mutual friends. He was in the game, out of the game. We were around each other. We've been in the same training room, but never crossed paths, never actually met.
Hmm.
Um, Getting ready for his most recent fight against Sabah Hamasi, his coaches knew that he, was explosive through wild kicks from funky angles. And, they were trying to go through the Rolodex of like, who could they bring in to his camp to help him out with that? And our mutual friend, Greg Rebello, had recommended me.
Hmm.
So, we're close. He's in Northern Connecticut. I'm in Rhode Island. So it's, we're only about 35 minutes from each other. So we started working out, we met, and man, the guy is an incredible worker. He's a physical specimen. And it just fit, it fit. Our styles fit. He was eager to learn. We worked great together.
Hmm.
He listened. We did some great rounds. We had great conversation. We discussed like how to study tape a little bit more. So from a training standpoint, I mean, Brennan and I like clicked right away. Like he said it in one of his interviews, like I became a fast friend to him and it's mutual. We just we share the same passion. We're really energized and excited about fighting. And on a personal note, I mean, he's just been through so much. If you haven't heard his story, it's not mine to tell.
Hmm.
Definitely look up, Brennan Ward and see the stuff that he's, been through and continues to overcome. But, he's just such a good person. And you could tell like his soul, he puts his heart and soul into everything. He loves hard. He trains hard. He fights hard. Everything he does is all in, and you can't help but appreciate that. So yeah, Brennan and I became fast friends, and Brennan is helping me with this fight. And you saw the ending of when Turbo and B Ward get together. the first time, you're going to see it again the second time, April 1st.
Nice, man. And how excited are you for your upcoming fight with this opponent coming up? And what's been the preparation like in terms of, I'm not going to say what have you been doing in the gym, but what have you been doing in terms of like nutrition wise and recovery wise after training?
Yeah, I mean, nutrition is on lock. It has been since I've been an amateur. My coach, Andrew Cornell, his wife, Trisha Cornell, is
Hmm.
actually our nutritionist. She is the best in the game. She's worked with UFC athletes, Bellator athletes. I mean, all over the place. She's the best. We hit it on the head every time. My strength coach, Brad West, we've got it solid, between Turbo Sports Performance, taking care of myself on the recovery end as well. We just do all the right things, man. We train hard, we work hard. Andrew Cornell, Jake Manini at Hard Knocks. Like, we just put all the pieces together, and then we pick and choose, the right people around me. I also, like I said, I just came back from Toronto. Joseph Altolini, Bazooka Joe, is a huge mentor of mine. I always go out and get some work with him. So I always put my white belt on. I always empty the cup, and I become a student. I'm never the best guy in the room. I'm always looking to be challenged. And it's not about my next fight. It's about how do I get better from training camp to training camp? Just trying to be a martial artist, right? And that's what it's all about. If I'm getting better, I'm constantly going to create a gap. And that's what I want to do. I just want to continue to prove that the gap is very, very large and these guys aren't close.
Amazing. No, that's amazing. And I really see the work you're doing. It's amazing. And how do you balance all of this, like with your physiotherapy and then doing the martial arts work? What's your secret to balance?
It's time management, man. It's not easy. And it's not just that. It's it's my work life. Obviously, now that I actually own my own business now, I'm not working in clinic anymore.
Amazing.
I own Turbo Sports Performance, and I only work with martial artists all around the world. So I do offer remote and digital programs. So I have clients in Australia and Europe and Canada and Mexico. So I can work with anyone. We have an app that I can program for you and help you through, whether it's injury rehabilitation, injury prevention, or strength and conditioning. We can cover it all if you're a martial artist in need. So, my goal is to build that to be, the premier martial arts hub for one-stop shop, anything you need, to get better at your craft. I want to be that guy. So I'm
Amazing.
not working in person
Yeah.
anymore, but I've got that. And then, I have my wife, I've got my two cats. So, I got my family life as well. And then, I just make time to train and just block everything off. And I give my all to every little piece, right? It's like have you ever heard of the shoe rack theory, Japanese shoe rack theory?
I know there's a lot of Japanese series, but I never heard of this theory.
Yeah, the shoe rack theory. It's just, it's like when you go to work, you put your work shoes on, you
Mhm.
leave the house, you go to work. When you come back home, you take them off, you put on your house slippers, and you leave work in your work shoes. And
Mhm.
now you're whatever responsibility you are here. When you go to train, you take your shoes off and you're barefoot. And that's my mentality is there, and everything that's home and work stays out there. So, it's just understanding that, being present, I have to be present in
Mhm.
each facet of my life. And that's kind of how I try and roll all the time.
Amazing. Well, Ross, obviously I don't want to drag it on because obviously I want to make sure it's a quality conversation. I want to really say thank you for coming on to the Drewsperience. I hope you enjoyed it. Huge privilege. I learned a lot. Where can people connect with you online since everyone's on social media lately?
For sure. The best place to reach me is through my Instagram. It's at Ross_Turbo_Levine.
Mhm.
That is the best place to find me, whether it is karate combat related. Definitely tune in. Links to my merch are on there in my bio. So if you guys want to support that, you certainly can. Yeah, you mentioned sponsors. I certainly appreciate that. I've got a couple that are already rocking for me already. So,
Mhm.
the more the merrier. And I'd love to carry all you guys on my back into the pit. Yeah, Karate Combat April 1st. So karate.com. If you guys are in the area and want to buy tickets or travel down, you can definitely do that. Otherwise, it's going to be free on YouTube and other platforms. So yeah, that's the best way to reach me. And then again, like we mentioned, Turbo Sports Performance is you can send me a DM through Instagram as well and get that sorted out.
Amazing. Well, once again, guys, make sure to hit the like, share, subscribe, follow Ross Turbo Levine. He's an example of North American striking. He's the great American hope in the middleweight division. 3-0, gonna go 4-0, I predict. Giving that
Yes, sir.
positive vibe. Amazing person, as you can see when you watch the conversation. So make sure to follow him. The show's not about my channel, it's about him. But hey, we make it work. So make sure to like, share, subscribe button to both our content, and let's help grow martial arts. Drew
Yes,
Sperience
sir.
out.